Welcome, kings and queens, to another episode of Unapologetic, your number one podcast. This is the show where kings and queens tell their legacies and on. So get ready for the gems to drop and pull up to the table because we're ready. Welcome back, my people. You already know what it is. Unapologetic, your number one podcast, is your favorite host, Melly Mel, aka Mr. Unapologetic, right here in the studio. You know what I mean, man. I'm so happy today. I got my brother Nate Johnson, man, co-founder of Fresh Coast Alliance, finally on the show. Finally on the show. So I gotta have my brother on here, man. He's been doing so much great work in the community, man. Been out here doing this thing for quite some time. I'm gonna let him tell it, but let's get to it. What's up, brother? How you been?
Hey, good. Playing my my part, playing my role, my position, and helping to change the narrative. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, man. And that's a fight right there. That's a fight of all fights, I feel like.
Yeah, I was born to change the world, though. So
Ooh,
I'm up for it.
Y'all hear it? He ain't playing.
Yeah.
So tell us about, man, who is Nate, man? Before the professionalism, before the office, who is Nate Johnson?
Nate Johnson is now Nate Johnson is a man who loves the Lord, who loves his children. He's a great father, a husband, who loves his wife and is focused on one thing. And that's who I am now. Now, who I used to be is something totally different. Elvis Presley described it as a hound dog, So if we go back 20 something years just to kind of create a platform and so it makes sense here. Grew up in Muskegon, born and raised here. I come from two parents, two formerly incarcerated parents, two former heroin addicts were my parents, and was born and raised downtown on the Mason Inn. And because of the family dynamics and because of poor decision making on my own, I got involved with the streets. Many of you would know, if you hear in Muskegon, you heard of Mason Street. They used to call it was Mason Street Mafia back in the 90s. And before that, if you've been around on the streets long enough, it was BPGs, Bulletproof Gangsters, before Mason Mafia came into existence. And, born and raised over there, I was good at hooping. I was good at scrapping, had a hustle game to me, and coined the name White Boy Nate. And I think even till this day, going even back then, I mean, there wasn't another white dude selling crack on the Mason end.
Wow, you was the only one that was doing it like that?
Yeah, well, rotating at that level. Yeah, it was it was first of the kind. I mean, to the point to where even the police was curious, like, what in the world is going on here? How's this white dude out here in the hood selling crack and getting money and doing his thing uncontested? And so, I mean, at 16, I mean, that prompted them to set me up with a confidential informant on drug sales at the age of 16. And when I caught my first felony cocaine charge, possession of narcotics. And at 16 years old, yeah, they sent a confidential informant in to make some sales from me. And lo and behold, I got busted by by the we met, we called them back in the day. And they got me, and was incarcerated in the juvenile system at 16. So, born and raised on the bricks, doing that, getting in trouble with the law from 12 years old all the way up till 19, when I was arrested and charged with armed robbery, felony firearm, and delivering and manufacturing cocaine charges, and was sentenced to 17 and a half to 50 years in the joint here in Michigan.
Hey, Nate, you a
So,
man.
yeah, went away at 19. So that was in 2000. Went away. Had an opportunity after I was in a couple of years to give some time back through the appellate courts. Filed my, my paperwork with the appeals court and was brought back for arguments here on a technicality in Muskegon County back in circuit court. Won the argument. I should say won the argument, but the judge granted the request from the argument and was resentenced from 17 and a half to 50 down to 12 and a half to 30 years. And so it brought me dead. It doesn't seem like a lot, but 5 years is when you're doing that time.
What?
And I was at level 4, so that's maximum security. We're on 21-hour lockdown. So
right.
6 months would have sounded good, you know what I mean? But 5 years, it was like, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Because at that time, you see a light, but it looks like the light on the front of a train coming at you. You know what I mean? And so the 5 years was come off, and that was a strategic time for me personally, because I had started, in that process of wondering why I was here. You know what I mean? What am I doing here? What am I going to do when I get out? Am I going to pick up where I left off at and come back? And am I going to go back to hustling? And I'm taking a 50-50 chance at getting popped again, coming back. And so at that time, God, up until this time, a lot of cats get locked up and they're like, man, I need to read my Bible and, pray. I ain't do any of that. I knew, I knew what I was doing. This was a part of the game. And I get the 5 years off, and something internally was just going on where I'm like, man, I can't continue to do this. But I had absolutely no way, no framework, so to speak, to say, how do you get out? And I ran into a few guys in there in the joint who, similar predicament. Some of them were doing natural life on murder cases, some doing long indeterminate sentences on dope cases, because back then there was mandatory minimum sentences. You can caught more than 6 grams, 650, you was doing life. You got caught more than 375, you was doing 20 out the door. No ifs, ands, buts about it, right? It
was harsh back then.
Yeah, so they were laying guys down. So there was a lot of guys that we were all in similar predicaments, and there was a few guys who had been in for a while that had genuine encounters with God, and they really flipped their world upside right. And so for me, there was something, a pulling going on in that direction, and inquiring, saying, what's this about? So after about the following year, man, I came to a place personally where I felt like my only way out and not coming back was to give my life to the Lord, if it was as real as what these guys had said it was, right?
Right.
And so I did, and because I knew personally, I had to be honest with myself, I'm not one of these guys. I'm not just going to get out and just be good for nothing. I've been in every type of lockup the state has to offer. Ain't none of it cured me. You know what I mean? I was dreaming about what I was about to do the whole time I was in. I mean, the day I got out, I was picking me a pack up and let's go,
Right.
And so I knew that part, like, I'm not just going to get out and be good for nothing, man. I needed a genuine change of heart. And so, and that happened, man, April 28, 2003. I still had 10 more years left to go in the joint. But I kind of isolated myself from the world, and I didn't write and call. I stayed connected to my dad periodically. My brother I would call. But other than that, I didn't write people. I didn't call people. To me, it was just, I had to turn myself over to my reality at that time, which was in there. And I went through
the process. To separate. Sorry, but you had to separate yourself from the environment that you left from, even through writing and calling. Pretty much, right?
Yeah. Wow. Just isolated myself in there for the next 10 years. So that next decade, I was going through that transformational phase, renewing my mind and really dealing with all the issues of my heart. There's a lot of um, brokenness, trauma. You know what I mean? Like I had been molested when I was young, and that had produced, a distorted way of thinking, and and that on top of uh, all different types of stuff, things I can think back, stuff that my mom had said to me. And at the time I didn't understand it, but was hurtful. And I carried that stuff around, and I would use that to justify why I would do what I do. You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
this is dumb. You know what I mean? But I had to realize and come to grips with, she did the best that she could. She was broken too. You know what I mean? She worked with what she had, and in the heat of the moment, we say things we don't necessarily believe, but nonetheless, we do stupid things. And I had to come to grips with, I wanted grace and mercy. Therefore, I had to extend it to other people. And so a healing process took place while I was in there. And so worked through all those things, was renewing my mind. And 10 years later, May 30th, 2013, I was released from the Michigan Department of Corrections and was given a 24-month parole. So I was still under supervision for a couple more years.
right.
I did that, and and then here I am. Now I'm out, and that was 9.5 years ago. So I'm going on almost 10 in May. 10 years in May, I have been home. And
well, congratulations, kid.
yeah,
Man,
man. Yeah. I mean,
that's what's up, man.
where I'm at now to where it all started at, it's been a crazy ride. I mean, every single thing, from a spiritual perspective, every single thing that sin stole out of my life, God gave it back to me double.
Ooh.
Every single thing. And I ain't just like, I'm not just saying it just because it sounds good, but every single thing. Man, 2 years before I came home, I was in a conversation with a guy in the prison yard.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, getting ready to come home. I got down 2 years left, be seeing the parole board the following year, getting ready to do my paperwork for parole eligibility. And so we were started having these conversations like, what are we going to do when we go home? And, and I'm like, when the question came to me, I'm like, I'm probably sell houses or cars or go back to school, get my business degree, do something like that.
Right.
And I'm like, that stuff just don't float my boat anymore. It just don't have the umph to it. And so he said, well, what just pisses you off? I'm like, we're, on the prison yard. I'm looking around. I'm like, you see that dude over there? He's been here 4 times. I ain't even gone home once. Every time he start crying about how he misses kids and he misses girl and he don't like the food in the chow hall. It's like, dude, you knew what you were doing. These are choices you making, and you still crying. Now, if you come back and you just like, hey, it is what it is. This part
especially after the 4th time, man.
Yeah, come on, man. Once or twice, but 4? You ain't even 40 years old yet. Like something ain't right. So there was a bunch of guys like that coming in, just doing these little 2-3 year joints and then going home. And so I, seeing those guys, I'm like, man, I said that stuff just frustrates me when I see these cats go and come back. And then I was hit with this. He said, Nate, when you discover what drives you up the wall, you'll realize that's what you were created to solve. And I knew in that moment that I was here to teach people how to win the war over staying out. That I had an obligation, number one, to help clean up what I helped mess up. I had to get out first. I had to live my own solution. And then I had to be able to kind of set a precedent in some regards and let guys know that, look, man, I found the way out. Come on, and so when I came home, that was my whole mission, was to start, start something I didn't know what that was. I just knew the direction that I was going. I didn't know nothing about nonprofits and 501c3s and all that stuff was new. I learned all that
Right.
once I come home, you know. All I knew was this. I knew that I still had my ability to hustle and I still got my ability to recruit. I knew that much. Right? So now
Right.
it's like, how do we leverage these gifts and talents that I have? How do we
Right.
leverage those things and use it for good? I realized that those gifts weren't there to help destroy people's lives, but they were there to help empower people.
Mm.
And now that they were surrendered to a different king, I was ready. So I came home, hit the ground running, connected with a number of people. Me and my right hand man Joe, we teamed up about nine. I was probably home about 90 days at the time, and him and I connected, and it was just, I mean, we were jamming. It was just like, our destinies linked up together in this whole reentry thing. And
Wow.
so him
So
and I
dope.
got connected, did our thing, and we were jamming for like 2.5 years, and 2.5 years later, through after talking to everyone who would listen, talking to anyone that would give us the time of day, from church groups, home groups, colleges, whoever would listen to us. And we went ahead and launched what's known today as Fresh Coast Alliance, which is a prisoner reentry and recovery program. And it's a holistic approach. It's would be considered a one-stop shop. So if an individual is coming home, from everything from getting your insurance turned on, EBT, to housing, to trauma therapy, to employment, to we have an entrepreneurship program, Fresh Start Business Alliance, for future, guys who have that broker's mentality and they're hustlers by nature.
Right.
Our business team has put a curriculum together in a cohort style, Shark Tank style, because you do a pitch event and can win seed capital at the end of it. So
That's
it's
dope, man. That's dope.
yeah. So
God.
it's a one stop shop deal, from careers, like if someone to do, trades or go the academic route, then we could put them, we partner with MCC to pull that off, and they could go for free. Obviously somebody's going to pay for it, but it wouldn't be any out of pocket stuff for them, right? Coming right out the joint.
Right.
So we do that, and then so we got the business, career, and then just employment. So if someone wants to come home, just get a job, $15-20 an hour, our employment director, she takes care of all that, and we'll have them employed within 2 to 3 weeks. They just got to be ready to work and show up. That's all.
For real.
Mm-hmm.
And it's incredible that you did this. You said 90 days getting out, coming home.
Mm-hmm.
You already had this. So you already had this plan in prison, right?
Yeah. A couple of years, before I left prison, this was already, it was brewing and cooking, and
Right.
and I planted a church too. So before I even started Fresh Coast Alliance, I planted a church called Kingdom Life, and they're partners. It's all right here in the Sheldon Park neighborhood. We got about 4 blocks of property with the houses, a therapy practice, a church plant, and then the training center, which is a former school building, which is where I'm at right now, the Fresh Coast Training Center.
But I didn't know that. I didn't know that was all connected. I thought it was each a separate entity.
Well, now Kingdom Life and Fresh Coast are separate 501c3s.
Okay.
But I co-founded both of them.
Oh man, sure.
To run in partnership with each other. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, you the GOAT.
Yeah. So we do, and it's flipping what ministry looks like, flipping it upside down, right? And we posed question to the team when we were developing our launch team, was like, before we plant, we need to answer these 2 questions. How are we going to be a benefit and blessing to the city? And then how are we going to be a benefit and blessing to the neighborhood? If we can't answer those 2 questions, we don't need to do anything. There's 120 something churches in Muskegon. They don't need another one.
Right.
Right.
That's true. That's true.
And our whole focus cannot be Sunday morning. Muskegon don't need another Sunday morning church. There's enough of them. Just go join one that's already going.
Right.
right?
Yep, pretty much.
But what Muskegon did need, I felt like, was a church where it turned the table, so to speak. So,
What do you
some
mean by
churches
that?
will have what is, they'll have like a missions board, and they'll meet at the church to discuss maybe how they're going to go out and evangelize in the community, which missionaries are they going to support, how can we be missional from the church's standpoint to go and impact people with the gospel. Well, we turned that around. Instead of having a mission board, we created a carrot. A carrot is something that draws people to them.
Right.
And then you get to build relationships with them. You get to share the gospel in a non-offensive way. And then people get to say yay or nay, but we get to stay committed to what he said, which is you got to love people regardless.
Right.
All right, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
So what we call this whole philosophy is like church planting with a carrot. Okay. This is a flip the script, flip the game. This isn't something that's just, is just going on. So you got Kingdom Life, church plant. The carrot is Fresh Coast. Fresh Coast draws people who are coming home from the penitentiary, draws people that are coming out of the streets. And Fresh Coast is answering the questions that the world is asking. When people come here, I need a job, I need a house, I need employment, counseling, da 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 da. All right, we answer those questions. And don't hit you over the head with the Bible either. You ain't got to sit in a Bible study class. You ain't got to, none of them.
That,
okay? So that answers the question, what they are asking. And in time, as they're with us, Kingdom Life is here to answer questions people should be asking. Who is Jesus? What is eternal life? What is all of these different things, these spiritual questions, is here to answer those questions. But it's in the context of relationship. You're not going to come in and say, or you need to sit in a Bible study before you eat or before you come in our program. You got to give your life to the Lord. No, you come as you are. You don't have to do anything. At the end of the day, I don't want anyone going back to the penitentiary. I don't want anyone going back to drug addiction. I want every single person that has children to be involved in their children's life. If they're married, I want them to be legit spouses. You understand what I'm saying? Regardless. You say, I don't believe in all that God crap. Okay, cool. I still don't want you going back to the penitentiary. I still don't want you strung out on dope. I still want you to be a contributing community partner. I still want you to do all those things. So, hey, if that's it. That's a choice. Everyone makes their own choice. It's not my responsibility to hound you to agree or believe the same way I do. That's not effective. Jesus didn't do that. It's not what we're called to do. So
that pushes people away.
Yeah, no one wants to hear that nonsense,
Right.
So we took a totally different approach, but more than half of our leadership were formerly incarcerated people.
Really?
So you think probably 65% of the people that go to Kingdom Life are all formerly incarcerated people. We got more people who have got felonies in our church. They call us, the neighbors call us the criminal church because there's so many criminals. Yeah. So, and we gladly take it. We like, okay, Jesus was called the friend.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. So we got there's more of us who have been to prison and have felonies than people who don't that go to our church. Right?
That's a beautiful thing, though.
Yeah. Because now you have a bunch of people who didn't grow up in church. We don't know how to play church.
Right.
So we don't know what the protocol is. We don't know how to. All we know is we were tore up from the floor, but we needed someone bigger than us to come in and flip our world upside down. That's what we were. Like Jesus said, I was blind, but now I see. I know I was screwed up. I know that much. You got to do this and all that other stuff y'all are talking about. I don't, brother.
But it's amazing, Nate, how you like the whole like hearing the story of how everything came to be.
Yeah,
it's amazing, man. You an intelligent brother, man.
Yeah,
the skills and the talents that God gave you, man, and I feel like that it was the reason why He put you in prison.
Yeah,
for you to sit down and really hone in on what He had gave you already.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? And then hearing the carrot metaphor, I never really thought about that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I've been to the office. You know,
Yeah.
I was up there. We had a great conversation, man. I was like dumbfounded, like, man, this place is big.
Yeah.
Like, this is all y'all created this?
Yeah.
And it's like this should be not just in Muskegon. This should be in every single city in the United States.
Yeah.